I don't know what to paint, so I'm just making intuitive marks on the page with a brush I don't normally use. Just to see what comes out. Super quick. Just because I wasn't sure what to do. That's the nice thing about watercolour. It's quite abstract in nature, but it's able to create quite a feeling. This reminds me of in Tasmania, there are these walks that you can do that have quite a lot of foliage before you get to the beach. It's like those little clearing the trees to get to the beach behind. It's kind of cool. I like that. Part of today is these ones. I have run out of miniatures or the paper. I'm going to make some more today. You can follow along for it. It's not that exciting, to be honest. Just finding the preferred paper and cutting it down to size. It's nice to spend moments peaceful without distraction. And just to do what you love to do, which is paint. if you find something creative that you genuinely enjoy doing, just turn everything else off and just do that. Forgetting the size. watercolour. Sometimes I use gold leaf. It's handmade watercolour, so it's got a different texture to regular watercolour. And so the gold, it granulates quite a bit, which I like. I didn't like it at first, to be honest, but I think that's what makes it so effective now, is that because it's handmade, it's not perfect, and so it doesn't always react how you want it to, and that's what gives it the really beautiful luminous qualities. It's because it's imperfect, which is a lesson in itself, I guess, when it comes to AI and everything like that, that sometimes handmade is better because it's made with hands. That's why I've kind of started preferring what kind I end up getting. Yeah, that's not available to me in my country, so I can't get it. So it's handmade. I'll leave a link. I have left a link somewhere before of where to get it. I have also played, so it's a combination of, you know, kind of the mica, the gold mica you get in makeup powders. So mixing some of that with gum arabic and clove oil, because sometimes the gold mica pigment, it's very grainy, so it's not one of those things that you just buy in a bottle. I have found like a handmade alternative on Amazon. Like I said, I'll find the link. Not right now because I don't have my computer with me. And you just have to like test it out. This current one that I'm using, it's a handmade by a friend. So I can't even give you the link because they made it. And it's like one of those things that was kind of like an experiment and not expecting it to work. But the one that I'll give in the link when I get to the computer, it's pretty close. But yeah, I found like the makeup pigments also work well. One of the few commercial things that I actually buy, and I'm like, you know, I'd like to do my own, obviously I just don't have time, is the watercolor itself, the watercolor pigment. They're by Winsor and Newton. Another one I liked, actually, now that I think about it, because I don't use it anymore, but when I did use it, I did like it until I got the homemade one, is, oh, what is it called? Coliro, C-O-L-I-R-O, Coliro Colors. And actually their Arabic gold was quite nice. But again, it wasn't as, what's the word, granulating? It wasn't as, yeah, gritty as the homemade ones. But it had a really nice, like, luminosity about it. But, like, I'm recommending these products, but one thing too about a lot of these things is when people say, oh, what do you use? And, you know, I find that it's a combination of things. It's not necessarily one particular thing. Like, so many people are like, oh, this tape, how do you get this tape not to rip your paper? It's like, well, it's not just the tape. It's the paper as well. if I use that tape on different paper, it rips. Like, and that's what I found with the gold too. So when I worked on hot press watercolor paper, like the regular gold that I got from the store, like one of the Keturah colors, perfectly fine. Like it reacted really well, and it was very luminous, and it had a nice like gritty quality. But as soon as I switched to cold press paper, which has got a rougher texture, I lost some of the luminosity of it, and so I changed the color until I found one that I personally liked. So yeah, you might get the same gold paint, but if you're not using the same textured paper, you're not going to get the same result. So those are things to keep in mind too when you see stuff on the internet. Like, do your research and think about it in context of what you're using it with. Because all of that makes a difference to the practice. That's what people don't realise, I think, when they see things and might want to replicate it. They might not have all the factors. And kind of get frustrated with the process. But part of the process is discovering for yourself like what you love about certain things. I find it quite interesting, actually. Hadn't meant for this one to be a talking video, but here we are. I find it interesting that many people see art on the internet and, you know, can be drawn to it and want to recreate it and things like that. And I've got no problem with that. I mean, go to town. I love feeling inspired and being inspired by other artists. I mean, I wouldn't have started sharing my artwork if I hadn't have seen other artists do it. Like, I genuinely love seeing what people create, and I thought, okay, well, if I love it, then other people would love seeing what I create too. It doesn't mean everyone would like it. But I think what's lost in that process of sharing what you create is the actual process of creating. Like things like this, cutting the paper. People don't normally see that because it's not pretty or particularly entertaining. But it's an important part of the process, and one that I particularly love because, you know, I'm handling the paper, getting a feel for it. At the moment I don't have any music on because I've got the streaming on, but normally I would just sit and listen to music and kind of relax with the whole process and not overthink it too much, and that's a really lovely way to create. Like, it's such a nice opportunity just to be alone with your thoughts and to create rather than consume, I guess. And I think too, it's fine to be inspired by things like, I mean, how many times have I seen things that I would have liked to have used, tools, and so I go out and I buy it and I never use it. I think that I've kind of learnt my lesson too. Like, just because I saw it on the net doesn't mean that it's going to work with how I work, even though I think it's pretty and it's nice. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I don't really know how the whole psychology of it works, but I definitely, it's like anything that you see. A lot of people try and, I think, replicate what others have, not necessarily know what they want. That was a long-winded and, what's the word, probably unasked for explanation of where to get gold paint. Very philosophical today. Yeah. There's my papers. There's quite a few there. I think I will cut up another lot anyway, because I just liked it when I try it. Like you say, yeah, that's it. Sorry, I can't be more helpful. With that particular one, the handmade one. But yeah, the Watercolors was the one I first did. And yeah, the other handmade version, I've got to look, because yeah, like I said, I have a link, like an Amazon page where I've got like my materials, because I just get asked so often. And I have a link for that, but like I said, yeah, I'm not at my computer. Speaking of gold paint though, I had a realization. So I've always liked, oh, what's his name? I can't believe I've forgotten his name. Edward Munch? No, that's not him. The Czech painter who painted The Kiss, and it's all gold, you know, super famous. Munch? No. Maybe it is Munch. Edward Munch? I can't remember. No, it's not. Because he did the screen, didn't he? Anyway, if you know, let me know. But I'm sure you know what picture I'm talking about. I even went to the museum and, like, he's definitely my favourite artist. There you go, brain fog for you. But the gold he used in his paints, I thought that was so interesting. So his father apparently was like a gold merchant or something, and gold features very heavily in his paintings. And I always really, I'm not a sparkly gold kind of person, but I felt like he used it cleverly in his paintings, because in some ways, if you don't have the angle, it just looks yellow, right? And yellow is not my favourite colour in the slightest. And like personality-wise, I'm not a sparkly person. Like I don't wear sequins. I do not like sequins. But he used actual gold leaf in his paintings. And I thought that was very clever, because gold leaf has some interesting properties too. I have tried to use it a number of times in my paintings. And it could be just the size of the paintings where it doesn't work. But also, I thought that was interesting, that it was kind of like a throwback to what he was used to when he was a kid. And I thought about using my use of gold in my pictures specifically. And I realised that the reason I use it the way that I do is because it reminds me of the way that the sun reflects off of things in nature that give it that glittery glow. And I love hiking, so there's a lot of like hiking involved. And on a very frosty morning, while doing a practice hike with a heavy backpack, it was pretty cold. It was a heavy frost overnight. And so I started out, it wasn't dark, but the sun had not reached us at this point. And towards the end of the practice hike, which was only like an hour or so, it wasn't very long, I was just heading towards home with the pack, and the sun hit the frost. And I couldn't speak because it was so beautiful. So sparkly, so glittery. And that's when it kind of hit me as like, I use the gold in my painting because I want to be reminded of these moments that I've seen so many times. It's not just when it's frosty. I find on a ridiculously sunny day, and especially in Australia, it's kind of like that. The way that the sun sparkles, especially off the ocean, it's just unmatched. You can't compare. It's just incredible. So that kind of was a realization for me that I use the gold and the sparkle in that way because of how it reminds me of those little moments that I often see in nature, which is really nice. I think is really nice. Other people think other things are nice, and that's what is special to them. But But yeah, what's that one? Dr. PH Gold. I've always seen those, always been intrigued by them, but that was one thing, like I was very conscious a couple of years ago. It's like, I'm not just going to buy everything that I see. I mean, I'd like to, but I'm not going to. That is not right. Why not? Did I miscalculate that? No, the same. Must be just the light playing with my eyes. Because as an example, with watercolor, we had the Daniel Smith Moonglow, and I saw another artist that I admire very much. I'm always intrigued by, pretty sure it's a her. I'm always intrigued by her work. And she uses that Daniel Smith Moonglow quite heavily. I always loved the results. So I got myself a tube. And I just don't like working with it. I thought I would love it, and I don't. I felt a little bit sad for myself. I didn't even like it. That was okay. I guess that was a lesson in itself. It's like, well, just because you think it's going to work with how you work doesn't mean it necessarily will. And it's interesting, like I kind of figured out how to use it as well, like because it didn't have like a certain technique that kind of is needed for it to display all of its characteristics. And so I kind of got to a painting where I did see it and made it work how I wanted, and I liked the result, but I just didn't feel like it had the same kind of pizzazz that I normally have, which I thought was also interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of philosophical talking from my end today. That's what happens when you do mindless activities like cutting paper. I'm just trying to, I probably won't do them all at once actually, that's not a good idea, Keturah. You don't need to rush, you can just relax. Discovered something yesterday too, that this particular size of paintings apparently works excellently in miniature dollhouses. Something I didn't set out to do, but it's like a happy surprise. Kind of cool, because I don't have a dollhouse, never intend on getting one, but I always like looking at them in antique shops and that. I always thought they were strange little worlds. Interesting, strange little worlds. Oh, bum. No, I cut the wrong bit because I'm distracted. That's annoying. Oh. That's the thing with minis, you don't waste too much when you make mistakes. So dumb, honestly. Now I've got these perfect little squares. I wonder what I can use them for. I don't really want to go smaller. It's hard enough going this small as it is. But that actually might turn out to be something cool because I don't ever do squares. Too lucky. So with the miniatures, my letter club this month, I'm sending out an original miniature. I like doing that actually, it's kind of fun. I had intended just to send original miniatures like twice a year, that's part of the letter club. But I thought, yeah, it's the end of the year. I had some there that enjoyed and I liked. It's like, let's just send them a nice surprise in the mail. And I also read in the news that Denmark is stopping snail mail now. That's sad. I like snail mail. It's nice. Very satisfying when they all like line up and they're the same. They look very cute. These are all my little mini canvases. So this is one thing people don't see either. I have this many, but that's how many will probably end up on the website. Like this many will get thrown in the bin. It's interesting, like you do so many paintings, and it's not that they're bad paintings or anything like that. It's just either they don't meet your expectations, or you're just experimenting with an idea and they don't end up becoming, you know, part of a final collection. I think that's very interesting too. I love, because I always felt like a little bit bad. It's like, oh, am I wasting time and paper and effort? And especially when they're bigger, right? But you're not wasting anything, especially if you're enjoying the time that you're spending on doing it. And I love seeing like studios of, you know, elderly artists, and you can just see that their studio is just chock full of decades of experimenting. I find that such a nice thing. I think everything we do today is like, oh, how can this be a commodity? Whereas being creative is not necessarily a commodity, it's just the way we were made to make things and express. Like, yeah. I have a friend who is not a professional artist by any means, but just feels so inspired going into his workshop. There's just a spare room where if I went in there I could not find a thing. He goes in there, he knows exactly where everything is. Like, it looks like it's a complete mess, but it's not. It's an organized mess. Organized, organized. Sad about those squares. We're going to have to cut these down into squares anyway, because they're already too short, because I must have overcut a couple right at the beginning, or when I was trimming off the jaggedy edges. Must have trimmed off a couple of millimeters too short without meaning to. Let's do this again. let's start what we came here for. That was my intention right from the start. I was like, oh, I'm going to paint a couple of minis today because it's been a little bit and feeling like I haven't taken the time to paint some minis. Instead, I cut up a stack of miniature canvases. That will be handy for the future, but in the meantime, let's just enjoy that time. So I might try and do 2 in one hit. I'll try one of the squares, see how we go. Lining up is always one of the hardest things. Making sure that the borders are straight, etc. You know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do 2. And I've just decided I'm going to do an abstract. And because of abstract, I know that I'm going to need drying time. So I'll work on another one at the same time. I don't have a hairdryer with my watercolors. The reason for that is because I hate the sound of a hairdryer. I can count the number of times on one hand I would use a hairdryer in a year on my own hair. It's just I can't stand the sound. And I think part of the beauty of watercolor too is in some ways you have to be decisive because of the drying time. It's quite quick. And in other times you have to be patient in letting it dry. And I quite like that forced waiting. That forced waiting, it's what I've noticed too, like with social media and stuff. A lot of our downtime we used to spend creating, drawing or colouring or something like that, but now the downtime is taken up by like scrolling or looking at our phone, which is fine. But I think that downtime that we used to have and that we used to spend creating is now taken up with something else. I think that's a shame. I'm using a brush that I don't normally use. And I'm using it because I don't normally use it. Just letting the paint soak into the paper. Give it some drying time. Just mixing up colours. I've been leaning a lot towards sap green lately, which I like, and now I'm going to mix some Prussian blue into that and water it down. This is a great exercise in slowing down, getting used to even flat washes, because you're layering up each time. So I just rinsed off my brush. I'm just going to try and take off as much excess pigment as I can. While that dries, I'll do the same one here. I might try a different approach. Mix it up a little bit. So that feathered a little bit, and I think because it wasn't quite dry underneath, which is normal. I'm just being impatient, which is fine. Got more of that sap green, which I need to get another tube of because I'm nearly done. I've had that pan for quite some time. That's the advantage to us painting so small, so it takes quite a while for you to get through your colours essentially. Okay, I learnt my lesson with that one, that I need to give it drying time, so I'm going to just pop that aside. I'm just in the mood for not thinking too hard. I just did that one earlier. I really like it. There's some sparkle in that one for you. Again, that's homemade, handmade silver sparkle, this one, which I don't use as much, but it layers quite nicely over watercolour. I haven't found a silver equivalent, but again, it's, what is it called? It is a mica pigment, but there's like other colours very like subtly in there as well. So what I might do is I might just colour this one in. So I drew both of these a couple of weeks ago. Greens on this one. I don't want to do greens. I don't want to do pink. I don't want to do yellow. But I don't want to do blue because that feels depressing. But I don't want it to be colourful. Just being very indecisive right now. Funny. What shall I do? We might go orange and yellow. Maybe we can just try that because that That's me being decisive. Yeah. This is me not wanting to do yellow. Thinking, oh, that's a nice, bright, happy colour. I've already scanned these. So if I want to print them out again on watercolour paper, I can. On my website I've got some original abstracts that I scanned and set up so that they could be printed on watercolour paper so they can be used for colouring in, which is nice. Using a small brush just because I find that relaxing too. I think that's a mistake most watercolour beginner artists make, is they make a brush, use a brush that's too small. And so you get like streaky effects and stuff like that. But for colouring I like a small brush. Got some orange, just a little bit, and drop that in there, give it some warmth. Nice thing about watercolours, it really does feel like you're colouring in sometimes. And colouring in is a lost art form, I feel. I think sometimes we convince ourselves that it's not worth the time, but having that downtime just to think and feel, and that's a really nice thing to do. Get out the pencils, colour in. It's really nice. It's fun to do. One thing I don't do with watercolour is the glazing effect, where you put down a layer, let it dry, and then go over the top of it with like a different colour or a different layer. I've never actually done that. No, that's not true. I have done it in the past, but it's not a regular part of the practice. But it's something that I kind of want to explore a little bit more, especially with these colouring techniques, because I think you could get some really nice blends and really nice effects from it. So that's something that I'd like to explore a little bit in the future. don't use yellows and oranges a huge amount, but I always prefer those like sunset colours in artwork when I look at others, which is nice. There's a bristle that came loose. It's a very old brush, this one. I'd say 15 years I've had this one, at least. Maybe even longer. Okay, so that is probably enough drying time for our next layer. So rinse off the brush and we'll go back in with another layer over the top. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Do that here. Yeah, that worked. Yes. It's good. I like it. Give that the drying time that it needs. Swap it out again. highly recommend having a practice like this where you can just sit quietly, no distractions, and just create. Yeah, I said it before, if you haven't done colouring in for a while, I highly recommend it. It's very, very therapeutic. You know, I think I'm going to leave it there. And that's the beauty of it. You can come back to it at another time. Thanks for joining. Bye.